G'day, welcome to the Campfire panel discussion. And tonight I have with me Paul Stretton-Stephens, who's a future mindset coach and expert of adversity in action. How are you, Paul?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for being here. And we have Scott Carson, who is a men's coach and founder of the Sunday Sessions. How are you, Scott?
You're fantastic. Thanks, Alan. Thank you.
Excellent. And we have Shari Ware, health business coach and #1 best-selling author. How are you, Shari?
I'm awesome, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, we were having a chat earlier on about the subject tonight, and as we're all coming out of lockdown, or we hope we're coming out of lockdown, and people have been reviewing their lives, their life-work balance, what breakthrough thinking do we need? What fresh perspectives do we need to have to move from ordinary into extraordinary? So I think that's a great subject to be talking about at this time. And Paul, would you like to start us off, please?
Yeah, sure. Pleasure. Now, I was thinking along the lines of before lockdown, think back to a long time ago before lockdown, when we had our ordinary lives where we do our daily routines, we pay our utility bills, we just live our lives normally. Now, in that time, we had people who had extraordinary lives, people who wanted to contribute towards their community, towards their society. They may have had hobbies and become experts in certain areas. But some people chose to become extraordinary people for whatever reason. Come lockdown, everything's disrupted. Our ordinary lives, totally disrupted. Our extraordinary lives, totally disrupted. However, during lockdown, we had some other people that became extraordinary too. We had lots of volunteers helping for shopping for our neighbours, picking up prescriptions, just generally helping out and volunteering. We had obviously the emergency services became really extraordinary, more than they normally are. And then as we emerge from lockdown, do we slip into ordinary life again? No. Our ordinary life has been disrupted yet again, and we have this new way of living. But then emerging from that is those people who had previously extraordinary lives are seeking for that again. The people during lockdown who've been reassessing their values, reassessing their life, reviewing the way they live, and may have realized they want something extraordinary too. Those who've decided to volunteer and help out may continue. And there's going to be new opportunities for people emerging from lockdown. So that's where the breakthrough thinking's coming from. And I like to explore that particular area because if you're in Melbourne, for example, or Leicester here in the UK, you're in your second lockdown now. And that again disrupts everything again. So I think that's a good opener for a discussion.
Excellent. So, Shari, what are your feelings about that? What have you noticed over the past period of time we've had?
I noticed that a lot of people that I work with are realizing that the excuses they had before were not actually the problem. I actually had somebody say to me the other day that they always felt that they didn't have enough time I work in the area of health, so they didn't have enough time to cook healthy food, and they didn't have enough time to menu plan, and they didn't have enough time to do this and do that. And they said, but then I found myself in lockdown and I had so much more time. I didn't have to commute every day, still working from home, but not having to commute every day. So there's a couple of hours that they didn't have before, and still not doing those things that they said they didn't do before because of time. So they realised it clearly wasn't that there wasn't enough time. It was other factors. Other factors were involved. So that's been a really big recurring theme, is that people are realising that a lot of the things that they tell themselves about why they're not doing something is not actually the reason why they're not doing something. So that's one thing. Another thing I found is that a lot of people, they've actually grown stronger, because quite often we don't, especially in the business realm, This has made a lot of people have to do business differently. They had no choice. It was either they do things differently or they're not going to have an income anymore. And so a lot of people have pushed past some fears that they had about, getting online, getting onto social media, putting their face on a live video. So that's where I found that a lot of people have become more extraordinary because they've had. Quite often we don't push past those fears unless we have to, and this was a case of where we had to. So that's two sides of the coin that I've definitely seen.
And how about you, Scott?
Well, it's interesting because I'm in Melbourne. So I'm in my second lockdown. So last lockdown, I just worked really hard to support others. I opened up my door to anybody who wanted to walk through it. And in the end, people who know me have noticed I've been very quiet lately. And it got me down. I took on too much and I took on too many people and I didn't look after myself enough. And which was interesting because it was a big lesson learned. I chose not to work through COVID. I spoke, Marcella, it was more important for her to work and to continue that. So I took on the role of being a grade 4 teacher, which I initially clashed heads a little bit with Oscar because he knew his way of doing things and I had to try and understand that. And we've got this beautiful respect from each other because of that, because we did clash, we did sit down and work through it. So that was pretty epic. So I feel put that back in. So we're now going into our second lockdown. I was with Sunday sessions when we weren't allowed to be around each other. So I tried to do Tuesday night lives. I tried to get everybody together. And I noticed there was a lot of disengagement across all platforms. So as a people person, I found myself like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And it really got to me that I couldn't spend time with people. And the number one thing that I noticed was out and about in the streets when people were really starting to push away from each other and not engage. And that for me is a very big thing because I'm the guy who smiles. I'm always wearing a smile. I wear a smile up front because, you know, it helps people engage. And I noticed the strength of what I did during that period. Like one of the things that I did during the lockdown was I did a 4x4x48, which is a run where I got it wrong. Surprise, surprise, when it comes to technology and understanding things and not reading things right. So I thought it was 4Ks every 4 hours for 48 hours. No, that happened to be 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So I did the first one, did 4K, checked it out. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll make that up. But anyway, so I started running, but after each run, I just shared my journey because it was towards the end of the lockdown and I needed to do something for me to be strong again. So I did that and I kept talking. Every run I'd share a memory or a positive quote and positive thing behind it. I started off with not announcing it and ended up finishing with a lot of people watching it. So I took on board that I could possibly be too much. As somebody who wants to challenge people and wants to get down to the real nitty-gritty in life and wants to understand exactly what's going on so we can work through it, so we can find the lessons so we can all get through. I was too much for people. So I stepped back from my communities for a bit. I stepped back from Sunday sessions. I stepped back from Cornish College because I didn't need to add extra pressure. Now going into lockdown again, I've taken a completely different tact. We started back at Sunday sessions, just started getting running and bang. Okay, cool. What are we going to do different? Taking the pressure off everywhere. I'm just putting out something funny, just enjoying it because I'm really concerned that this one's really going to open up some stuff because we did all realize, you know, the things that we were wanting to do and the things we always talked about doing that we didn't quite do them. And when we started questioning that, now we're going to get deeper into that thought. So for me, what I'm hearing amongst the people that I associate with is out of this one, people are already starting to push each other further away in the streets. They're really starting to stay away from each other. People are going to come into out of this one not trusting people. That scares me because trust is my biggest value. So Anyway, that's a fair bit of what I'm going through at the minute, and yeah.
Yeah, well,
So that's the now. Sorry.
Well, I look at, well, the first time around, everybody went, okay, we're locked down, that'll take a certain time, and then things will get back to normal, whatever that normal was going to be. But now it's been hit again. People are starting to think, well, is it going to be a third? Is it going to be a fourth? How long is this thing going to go on for? And we're starting, a lot more people are talking doom and gloom. Today, I was with a group and we were using the hand sanitizer, and the hand sanitizer bottle was probably empty by the time we walked away from each other. We're using it so much. You pick up a pen and you're using it, and I'm noticing this everywhere. I'm noticing people pulling away, as you've said. So this is the time that we do really need to look at, well, how do we step out of that? How do we be something again more than what we've been before? And it is going to take a bit. We've had the physical distancing, and I've got to stop every time I go to say that to make sure I don't say social distancing, because it's everywhere. Every time you take a step through the supermarkets, there's a sign every 2 meters or so, every 1.5 meters, whatever it is, social distancing, social distancing. That I know had a major effect on people to start with every time they saw it, because it got into their heads that we're socially distanced, we're social animals and we need to be connected. So, first thing I did was start changing the phrase I use every time we kept on talking physical distancing. Yeah, I want to be physically distanced from the bug. I don't want to be socially distanced from people. I need that connection. And that's where it comes into, how do we think differently? What new ideas can we come up with that can keep us in a balanced mindset, keep us connected to each other, and not turn into a society that just doesn't want to be like an antisocial society. It doesn't want to be around anyone.
On that, I think one of the things that I've noticed already since going into the second lockdown, people are starting to reach out a little bit more. People are starting, and it's not that, how you going, mate, catch up with you here. How you going? What have you been up to? Let's talk a bit more. You look forward to that conversation. So my conversations with my close mates, they're going for half an hour now. So as a positive out of that, I can't wait for us to get out of lockdown, and actually this appreciation for people at the minute is just beautiful. So, yeah.
I very much think that's a step towards being extraordinary when you move into that, to make sure that we're mindful of maintaining that so we don't slip back into old ways.
Yeah, there's definitely been a big appreciation. People have gained a much greater appreciation of connection and how important it is. And I've had conversations with quite a few people about the fact that they love the fact that now they're more connected with their family, say a family member or family members. It might not be physically, but even having to go online and phone calls and things like that, where they wouldn't have done that before. And so we have conversations about, okay, well, this is great. And eventually, it's never going to be the same as before, but eventually we're going to go back to where we can be around each other again. And how do we keep that connection going? How do we keep that level of connection going that we've gained now? If that's something that's important to us, and to so many people it is, let's think about putting things in place now so that when we do go back to being physically around each other again, we've still got that connection with those people we want to have connection with.
That's interesting, Shari, because I was talking to somebody the other day and they've reprioritized family connection and connection of friends. They've met with family members online, that they haven't done for many years, maybe the birthday cards, Christmas cards, but not really connected. Yeah. And the same with some friends, some old friends. And they were talking about, well, after lockdown, rather than go and sit and watch the telly after a full day's work, I'll call one of my friends, we'll have a Zoom call, or we'll go and meet if we can.
Yeah.
So they've been reprioritizing what they're going to do in the future.
Exactly.
And they don't want to slip back into their old ways. And that's down to the individual and what they classify as their priority. Is it that social connection? Is it that family connection, friend connection? Is that more important than ever now? And will they maintain it? And we've got the technology. People have got no excuse now, have they? Because we've got the technology, because distance isn't an issue, is it?
No, I think what happened in the past a lot of the time, and I've certainly been guilty of this, is that we get so busy with life that we do get disconnected. But then when suddenly all of that's gone, which, you know, when you go into lockdown, you don't have that busyness where you're having to run around and do all these things, then it's like, oh, okay, well, it's very clear that your priorities may not have been in the right place. I think this has been a really good wake-up call for a lot of people. Where are our priorities, and have they changed? Which I know for me, they certainly did, and for a lot of people they have. And so it's about now moving forward and keeping sight of those priorities.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I sat with my values over the last week and a half, because I'm sitting down reassessing it. Do my values serve me going forward? Because life is changing, and to be perfectly honest, I'm so bloody excited about it changing. I've been up speaking. I've spoken with Paul. I've spoken to Pauline. I've spoken to people all around the world, and it's just gorgeous conversations. And we're all looking at things differently. We're all, instead of sitting there going, maybe we can do this. What can we do different? What can we do different? I didn't like that, and I actually find there's more excitement around the opportunities now, because people are looking at them and go, oh wow, I actually understand that a bit more now, because that works. Because everybody had to do things differently. I don't know, maybe it's just the child in me, but I love seeing it in people's eyes when they get the opportunity to do something different, So yeah.
Yeah, I know when I started the introduction, we talked about from being ordinary to extraordinary, and I know in all the motivational speakers you go to and everything else, and they're talking about being extraordinary. It's doing something that's way out there. It's something massive, big change and everything else. What we've been talking about are small changes and doing things differently and connecting more with people. Well, that is my view, is extraordinary.
Absolutely.
And it's getting down to that level and staying there, because it's the first steps into doing something that's much bigger, because you don't know what's going to come when you create a new way of doing things that's connecting with more people. And how many times have you heard somebody who's just spoken to somebody who's been going through a tough time, and later on you found out that changed their life or saved their life? And that in itself, the result that what that person's done, that's extraordinary. And so that's the thing. So if anybody's listening and going, well, these guys are talking about extraordinary, what are you talking about, some massive thing out here? No, just those little changes.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, Alan, because the smallest tweaks have the most dramatic effect. Always the case. Smallest tweaks, most dramatic effect. And that extra, to make you extraordinary, is just that little something extra. Just something more than you did before. Something to contribute, something to connect, something to relate to, something to make you happy and somebody else happy. Somebody in Scott's world to give somebody a smile. That's the extra, and it doesn't have to be standing on a stage in front of thousands of people, does it?
Yeah.
I think the most important place you can make a difference is in your immediate community. It's. I don't normally like getting political or anything like that, but something that's sitting with me at the moment is I can't think of anything else other than this COVID is man-made. I can't come up with any other explanation, and I can't fathom how that can be done to us humans who want to be so connected. I'm actually rapt that it's happened, because we are finding new ways to connect. And those little smiles, like I just know that when you smile at people, the energy, and I keep talking about it, but right now they are so valuable. they are so, so valuable. And it's that little tiny change in your day that you give to somebody else. And I was speaking about it, and I'm going to go on a little bit, and I'm really sorry, but so I am going to run from Sydney to Melbourne, and I'm doing that for the whole reason of just want to raise the spirits. I just want to give people a smile. I just want to engage everybody, bring we together again. You know, give something. You know what? I'm just an ordinary bloke. There's nothing special about me. You know, I'm well overweight because I put on 8 ISOs, maybe 10, because my pantry was my best mate. So, but it's, you know, look, so, but it's those little things that are going to make a difference. You know, look, I'm just an ordinary person giving life a crack. And I love, at the moment, I'm doing the gratitude, 66 days of gratitude. Every day I just put up something I'm grateful for. And today I had this message from a mate I haven't spoken to in years. Put up something about cancer. I sent him a message going, mate, I'm just so rapt that I was there at that time. You know, we got to know each other. He goes, your gratitude posts are making my day every day. And all I'm doing is sharing something I'm grateful. Small, tiny little thing I'm doing. Tiny. And it's having a massive effect.
You see, and that's what I think a lot of people don't realise, those little tiny things and how they build up. And I'm going to share what you were talking about earlier on, Scott, before we started the panel discussion, talking about your son. You've been working with your son and he's been watching you, because as I keep saying to people, it's never what you say that the kids listen to, it's what you do that they actually listen to. And this is what they learn. You've made a lot of little adjustments and movements and things that you've been doing. And Oscar's been watching that all the way through. And what he did for your next door neighbour is quite incredible for a 9-year-old boy to do. As most, not even teenagers usually think about it. Some of the girls might, but the boys wouldn't. So this is the whole thing when we talk about being extraordinary. The small things that we do have massive impacts on other people, and that's the extraordinary that we can create in our society.
Can I just say something? And I really want to thank you for that. Yesterday, Oscar interviewed me, and I sat there and listened to him I was astounded. All right, I've got some tech issues. Don't laugh too much, guys. Surprise. And I can't work it out. So I went up to the cloud and I sent it through to Alan. And I'm not going to watch it until it gets put up on the Campfire Project. And my whole life is here for the Campfire Project. I'm here to be critiqued so that I can grow. I'm here. My whole life is on here so that I can grow. And one of the things I talk about regularly is getting to know people intimately and getting to know them. Like, you ever notice how you go to a funeral and you sit and listen to a funeral and you get all this beautiful information about this person and you go, wow, I didn't know that. How nice would it be to know that before they passed away? You know, yeah, it's the best gift you can ever give someone, getting to know them. I'm going to sit back for a minute because I'm going to smile for a minute. Thank you.
The beautiful thing about this is that one of the things that we talked about before was everyone's got their story and everyone's story's got value, regardless of what they think. They may think, oh, my story is not that much, but really it has. And it's the gift of being able to pass that information on to the other generations. You know, Scott interviewed his father a little way back, and that was an incredible interview. Now his son's interviewing him. That's 3 generations that are interviewing and talking to each other. This is extraordinary. This is the sort of stuff, those little things are just getting people to come together and start to talk. That's what makes the change in our society. This is how we connect. And other people who listen into that get those stories as well. And then they're going, oh, I'd like to know more about my father. I'd really like to know more about my grandfather, for instance. The next thing will be seeing the younger kids, our children, interviewing our parents. You know, that would be quite special. So the grandchildren's really connecting with their grandparents. They're the sort of things that we can be doing at the moment. And when parents and people are saying, well, I'm on one side of the world, my family's on the other, we've got Zoom. Turn the conversations that you're having into those. That's extraordinary. Because what you get out of it and each generation that follows after that's incredible. It's a legacy that's been passed down. You not only got it in written form, you know, just the words, but you've also got the emotion, you've got the visual and everything else. And now with digital records, that stuff doesn't, it's not like a tape that fades over time. It's there forever.
We are so blessed with the technology that we have these days. It just enables us to keep records and, you know, record history straight from the person, so that we're getting those true recollections, and it's not being passed from, the story's not being passed from person to person, getting changed a little bit along the way. I mean, of course, there's always going to be changes, but when it's coming directly from the person, that's just because you're getting their context, you're getting their inflections, you're getting their emotions as well, which nobody else can do that as well as that person. And you don't know, you never know what they're going to say or what they're going to do, or what expression is going to come over their face as they're talking, that is going to really give somebody that aha moment that helps them to change their life.
That's it.
I love what you just said there, Shari, because it brings back to mind about 2 months ago, just as we were sort of in lockdown for a short period of time, because I was talking to a gentleman, shall we say, that was fairly estranged from his family and didn't want to send a text message, certainly didn't want to give a telephone call, and certainly wouldn't do a Zoom call, but knew where they were and how to contact them, certain members of the family. So we were talking about how we could best broach the subject. And we came to the conclusion he could do a recording, like we're doing now, say what he wanted to say, so they could see the expression on his face, they could feel the anguish within him because of the tone of his voice, etc., and they could actually physically see him. And he sent it.
Wow.
And that was really powerful. I mean, it took a lot of guts for him to do that. And he said it took him about 20 takes to do this. You know, and he's worried about his memory on his hard drive. You know, he kept deleting all the time because he just was so worried about how much time it would take, memory it would take. But eventually he got to literally a 4-minute video, but was able to send that to a couple of members of the family that he wanted to reconnect with. And sure enough, with one, he's reconnected. The other one is still to reconnect, but he has hope as a result of that. And I'm sure there are people listening to this who may be in a similar situation where, or even there was somebody else who just sent text messages and they don't think to pick the telephone up. Because if they're receiving the text message, they've got the phone, pick the phone up. And they got into such a habit of texting one another, they never actually had a telephone call for months on end. And that was something strange for them. So anybody who's out there thinking of these sort of things, use the technology to your advantage, take that small step, and then that becomes extraordinary for you and for the people receiving it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about exactly like he did. He found a way to get around, still use the technology, but in a way that he was comfortable with, or more comfortable than some of the other options. I know for me, I don't like talking on the phone. I don't know what it is. I just don't like talking on the phone. I will send text messages. I will have video calls with people. I have no problem with any of that, but I just don't like talking on the phone. And so I avoid it as much as I can. Obviously, I do get on and talk to my family on the phone, but it's not as often as what it would be if I actually liked talking on the phone. So I find now I try to organise video calls whenever I can, because I just find them much more enjoyable than talking on the phone, and I use that to my advantage rather than just not talk to people. I use the video instead because that's what works for me, but for other people it's going to be different. They've got to find what works for them.
I just want to share a quick one on that, because you're both talking about using video, and I'm the tech genius in this group. And so my mum actually ended up in hospital, and she got thrown into the COVID ward, which it ended up she didn't have COVID. She ended up having diverticulitis. They spent 4 days testing her for COVID and putting the fear of God into her until that point. So what happened was we actually spoke on the first day that she went in. She was convinced she was going to die, and it was all over. It was all over. So I said everything I had to say just to make sure I did. And I'm like, what can I do? You know, like it really felt like she'd lost the will to fight. So I got Oscar. I said to him, mate, we're going to make a video for Nana. I want you to tell her everything you have absolutely loved doing with her and what you are looking forward to doing with her when she gets out of hospital. We made the video. I sent a message to my mum with that video, just in case she needs something to fight for. That was done instantaneously. That is the possibilities and what we can do these days. We can do these things. We can support people. I keep talking about it only because we had such a good giggle about it before, about me being a tech genius, and then I dropped out and everything else. But it's, if seriously I can do that sort of stuff and come up with that kind of creative, I can't wait to see what the next generation create for us. Because wow, everything at the moment, like, and I talk about Oscar a lot because this is my world. I talk about my world. So, you know, at the moment I'm being a dad. So I've just done the video of Oscar and I. It's somewhere in the cloud. I'm waiting for it to rain so it drops in. But basically, when that comes down, you know, I'm going to give that to Oscar to cut because there's no way I know I can. But I'm going to learn new skills. And this is something for me that is been one of the most beautiful things out of it. My mum's on Messenger Kids. Oscar speaks to my mum every day, you know, and this is epic. Well, look at these beautiful things. So how much intergenerational communication is happening now because of it? Because we can't be around each other. My mum actually did something naughty yesterday. She did a drive-by, and she did it with her husband. Did a drive-by, went and did a rehab, and then came back through and, you know, drive-by and waving, and we're at the front window going, oh. But you know what? Oscar said to me, he goes, I was talking last night. We did an interview yesterday. We spent time with my neighbour yesterday who's going through a fair bit. And his best part of the day was his nana driving past. A simple little thing. So we've got some amazing things coming out of this, I'll tell you, with all the connection we're going for.
That's it. And when people realise that they don't have to do something massive, it's just those little things. Think about, well, what's the outcome? What's the results? How does that affect other people? And when you look at the results more so than, well, it's only a little thing that I'm doing. What's the outcome? Who receives from all of that? And then you measure the extraordinary measure on that, not just what you think that, well, I just did a video, that's not much, but what's the impact of that video?
And I think there's so many people, especially, you know, through all of this, that are doing things, little short videos, things like that, with the only intention to make people smile or to make people laugh. And that is such a beautiful thing.
Also, I mean, one of the things that, this is related to this, but it's something you can do long term, and I've consciously done this since about 4 or 5 years ago, and I do it twice a year. I do a review of what I'm grateful for my wife. She doesn't know this, but they're recorded, so that should anything happen, I mean, I'm not sure what it's going to be like in 50 years' time, what the technology is going to be like, so I'm going to have to convert them, obviously. But a message, just a review while it's still fresh in your mind. You know, I'm grateful for the last 6 months because you've done this, or we've done this together, or this has happened, etc., etc. And then 6 months later, do the same. And then another 6 months later, do the same. Because if you leave it too long, you forget things.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like a video diary, but like every 6 months a review. And I think they can be quite powerful later on down the line, especially if you come in some kind of adversity later on in life. Well, I think they're worth doing.
Yeah, even if you just come to the point that you're wondering, you know, somewhere down the track, you're just wondering, why am I married? Go back and review them and wake up to yourself as to why you got together in the first place, what really there. And how do I bring that back again?
Yeah.
So, there's so much wealth in what we can do with videos, and it's really been driven home because of the isolation that we've had. But one of the things I noticed, all the selfie type videos and all the silly stuff that was done before all of this, that still goes on, but we've still got now the people who are being more serious about what they're doing with the video, which I think is we're starting to use it in a healthy fashion, as opposed that I want 15 seconds of fame or whatever it is, and look at me, I'm beautiful or whatever, or doing blokes doing stupid things to try and impress. Well, we're turning that around. We're starting to use the video in a different way, because it's never been social media that was a problem. It was the people using the social media. And so I think that, COVID's taken a lot of lives. It will continue to affect a lot of people even after it's gone, because there'll be problems with hearts, there'll be lung problems, all the things that are left over. But if we look at, because for every upside, there's always a downside, and vice versa. So there are a lot of upsides that come out of this. So it's in how we actually address that and what we go looking for as to how we're going to be in our own mental health when we come out of it to start with.
There's a lot of lessons coming out of this whole situation, and there will continue to be lessons, and it's about learning the lessons and deciding on the best way to move forward, to create, that always moving towards that better life that we want. And sometimes it's also about, I've had a lot of conversations with people about, they had a plan, and the plan, what they were trying to achieve, didn't happen because the whole world changed, and so that changed their plan. And I said, okay, so when you're making plans now or creating a strategy or a plan of action to achieve that goal that you want to achieve, how about you take a little bit more time to do it and create one that is zombie apocalypse proof so that no matter what happens, you're still going to be able to make progress towards that goal. You might have a few detours along the way, but you'll still be able to make progress.
And we've seen that people can be extremely resourceful. We've seen businesses that completely retooled, changed the things they were creating to keep the business going. So many people doing things differently to what they've done before. That's extraordinary thinking. So
this second wave for me is going to be an interesting one, because everybody has changed tack. Everybody's come to the plate with new opportunities. Melbourne and Leicester are going to be pretty big test case for what can happen, because all the businesses that have just survived aren't going to survive. That's going to be a real challenge. Like, I truly think the world should be watching Melbourne and Leicester right now. I think we should be watching, because the second wave's coming. I've just heard that New Zealand have just brought in some very tough rules for the next lot that is coming through. It's a lot of fear out there, and all I know is the only way in which we're going to be able to get through that is with love in our hearts. And I'm having a conversation in a minute with some people just to talk about that, because every single person, this is the one thing that I really want to address in this conversation, every single person is dealing with this differently. Every single person has different challenges during this time. All the tradesmen at the moment are still working their backsides off. They've got work coming out of everywhere. They can't keep up, so they've got new levels of stresses. Partners are at home looking after the kids. Tradies are going to work, working harder than ever because they've got to get all this stuff done. Their partners are home looking after the kids, homeschooling. That for me is a big pressure cooker. And if anyone's listening is in that situation, don't worry about getting it right. Just do. It'll be what it'll be, and we'll work it out on the other side. And if you feel like it's too much, reach out to someone inside the campfire.
And that's the important thing. Is it sort of brought everyone together, because talking to a lot of people today, a lot of them are on the job keeper programs and things like that. And I'm noticing the way they're talking about it is quite open, whereas before, if somebody was on the job seeker, they'd be extremely quiet about it because, you know, you'd be looking down your nose at them because they're not working. Well, that's what they would feel. But now everybody's in the same boat. And, you know, people who have good wages before are now in the same boat as the others. So it's leveled everybody in more ways than one. It's a great opportunity now to start, so not worrying about what we think of ourselves, but I'll start looking at, well, how can I actually move forward? How can I be happier in what I'm doing? How can I help other people? How can I help my family? All of that side of things. And we can move forward from that point. We're no longer in a state of competition where everyone's trying to be with men, trying to be the man. Now, everyone now is trying to be a man, which is what the Campfire Project has always been about, helping men to do just that.
I think that's so important right there, what you just said, on that right now, if you get the opportunity, help someone, support somebody. Because when you're supporting other people and you're doing for somebody else, you feel better about you. I know today, with what we've done, Oscar and I, we've had an amazing day. We mucked up the schoolwork badly today, but you know what? We had a day where we connected. We looked after our neighbour. We did the right things. You know, for me, find a way to support someone, because I think that's the best thing.
I totally agree with what you're saying there, Scott, wholeheartedly. And I think there's an opportunity within the campfire. The difference is you can be there to support somebody, but you've got to know who to support. They've got to ask first. You've got to be able to identify them. Your neighbour asked for your support. Therefore, you were able to give that. I mean, I'm sure we've got a lot of people in the campfire who are open and will ask, but equally there's going to be people in there that are a little bit reticent in doing that. So I would urge anybody, look, it's a safe environment. We've probably all been there before anyway, done that and got the T-shirt, and you're getting the T-shirt at the moment, and it's your turn. But, you know, that's life. But we can support you. You know, we can listen. But you've got to use your voice first. Type a message, whatever it takes. But you've got to take that first step, because then the support's there for you. Because, like Scott's quite eloquently said, you know, we can support you. You know, we're up for that. We're here. But you've got to step forward first. Otherwise, we don't know who to support.
On that, can I also say this as well, that it's a question for everybody who's listening. When you do something good for somebody, do you feel good? And I know I do. And Scott, you just said that you do. You can see in the expressions of Shari and Paul as well. So we all feel better when we help somebody. Then why would you not reach out to somebody and give somebody else the opportunity to help you so that they can feel better about themselves? And I would actually say to you, why would you rob somebody of that opportunity by not allowing them to help you? So do them a favor and ask them to give you a hand. It's not about you asking for charity. You're actually giving a gift when you allow somebody to help you.
Very true.
So change your thinking.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was going to be a lot more forceful in saying that.
I've just done a post and I put it up as a graphic, and it's, don't commit random acts of kindness. Be kind.
And I'm going to add something else too. What would the world be like if we were all just givers? There would be nobody to give to. There has to be a receiver.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
You have to receive it in good faith, because at that moment in time, if you are in need to receive something, fine, accept that. But then later on, you're going to use that experience maybe to help somebody else.
Because when people are, you know, they feel great about helping, but they feel embarrassed about asking for help. And it's always that case of, you know, that's that opportunity to allow somebody else to feel what you feel. Don't just keep it to yourself. Share it around.
And the world and the universe is created on duality. the ebb and flow of the tide, masculine, feminine, giving, receiving, everything. If you look at every single thing in the world, it's created on duality. It has to be.
Yeah. For the guys out there who may not be working, who are at home and everything else and feel that their identity is gone, one of the biggest things that families need, children need, are their fathers. The kids that grow up who are the most abusive, most aggressive and everything else come from families where there is no father figure present. Either they're emotionally not there or they're physically not there. The men have a massive opportunity right now to be that leader, that father figure, the leader of their whole household by being there for their kids. This is an opportunity that they may not be working, they may not be bringing in the money they brought in before, but why were you bringing the money in before? It was the opportunity to raise your family and look after them. Well, now you can give them the best gift of all, which is you, which is what you've been doing, Scott.
Yeah, I'm sitting here smiling so much right now because it's a hard one. I'm trying to find ways to make more money, to support my family, support my money. Am I being a man? Am I being a man? Am I supporting my family? And I'm really challenged with that at the minute because it's my choice to be at home. It's my choice to be here and support my family and try and do the dishes and learn how to do the washing properly without getting into trouble and make the bed completely right. So my wife comes home and it's like, that's how she made it. And I've had to ask her to say, just bear with me. I'm trying to cook dinners. You're an amazing cook. You're amazing. And I'm trying to catch up to you. And I'm never gonna. But just bear with me and we'll work together. And I'm adoring it. I'm having to renegotiate my financial situation. I'm going to have to jig this, jig that. Not be a survivor so much, Paul. But one thing that I really hope, the interview I've just done with Oscar is, I couldn't believe the questions that came out of him. One question he asked me, and it talks about, Shari, what you just said about receiving. He goes, Dad, you give to so many people. Why do you find it hard to receive? And I'm just like, shit, they come out of a 9-year-old kid. I need to be doing something different. I need to be doing that. And it was the most beautiful thing. So, anyone who's watching, I need ways to receive so I can run from Sydney to Melbourne because I've got, my budget zero. I want to do it on an Indigenous diet. So I'm going to need people to help me find that and learn that, and I'm having to learn to receive. So, you know what? Thank you, COVID, for teaching me that that's an important thing. So, yeah. Sorry.
And just back to Oscar for a moment, as he's asked you that question, number one, he's observed that in you. So as it proves the point that our children learn more by watching than by listening. Secondly, the child of 9 is brave enough to ask that question as well. So if you stop and you analyse that, there's so many other things in there. It's not just the fact he asked you that question and recognise that you're giving to everybody else. And when we stop and we take that time to look deeper into what's being said and what things are happening, there's so much more we can learn from it. And when you start to put all those little bits and pieces together, that question in the first instance might have been something that was quite incredible. But when you bring it together, you look at everything else, you go, my God, that's not just incredible, that's bloody massive.
Well, thank you. And I really say thank you because I'm a bloody great dad. I am present. I love him. I let him fail. And I'm learning to be able to own the fact that I'm a great dad. Because I adore it. I adore it. And anybody watching, kids want us, mum and dad. They want us to be present. They want our time. I've got Oscar realistically for 4 more years, 13, 14. I'm out the door. He's like, and you know what? Good on him. Go and live your life. Right now, I don't want to be, and this is one of the reasons why I love listening to Kylie a lot, because she's a death doula and she spends a lot of time with people in their latter days. And it's the one thing they continually say, I wish I had more time with the people that mattered most to me. Right now, with COVID, we have that time. Let's make it count.
Don't worry, Scott. When he hits like 12, 13, 14, you'll still have him, but only in the car when you're taxiing him from one place to another.
Yeah.
And after
he's got a bike.
And somewhere down the track, and that as they say that we go from being parents and our kids become the parent, we become the child. So in your case, that might become a little bit sooner the way he's growing up. That'll give you something else to worry about now.
I'm the teacher. I thought I was the teacher, but I'm the bloody student. He keeps stepping up. Like, I love it. I love learning from him because, you know, like, I don't ever want to grow up either, by the way. I want to be a child forever. So, I truly feel sorry for my wife. Yeah, thank you.
Everybody watching, I don't think there's much of a chance of Scott growing up.
I'm just going to put it out there. Before we had this panel, and we were talking before, and oh my God, I was in absolute hysterics. And I've just gone, shit, Alan's recording. Technology gets me again.
Yeah, a lot of the panel discussions, we've had so much fun before and after. There's probably probably a good 100 hours of bloopers that I can put together and conversations, which be quite entertaining.
Well, maybe that's the thing to do at the minute, I think.
I wish I'd saved all of them, actually.
I might just keep John Hope out of it. John, I love you. You know that.
Well, as I keep telling him, he's big enough and ugly enough to take it all.
So I'm going to sit back for a minute.
Yeah. Well, you know, time's moving along as usual, and these things I just, I always realise I've got to keep them under the hour or so. We quite often go over that, but at the same time, you don't want to finish them either. So the conversations are always brilliant. But we've talked about quite a bit. We've covered, and we talked about extraordinary. We've sort of described that a lot of the smaller things, the extraordinary results that they actually create, and the value, real value, not just the monetary value, the cars and the things and things like that, but the change it makes in people's lives and how those people then go on and change other people's lives. That's the important thing. Just to sort of round it off, if there was, what sort of extraordinary things are you doing yourselves, and what advice would you have or ideas you would have for other people to get them started if they were thinking, well, where do I start with this? We start with you, Paul, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, extraordinary things I'm doing at the moment. I'm working with groups, and that's quite extraordinary because I only work with a maximum of 6 people. It means I can give more dedication to each and every one of them during the group, but then they can support each other. And if you amplify that more, if you have more members in there and you put them in a group and a private Facebook group to support one another, it kind of gets lost and you end up with little cliques. But with 6 people, they're all become pals and become very supportive of one another throughout the whole process. So I've managed to do that, and that for me was an extraordinary move. It was a small move on my part, but it's had a big effect. It really has had a big effect. And I think the other thing for people is just keep asking. If you need help, ask. I mean, I'm still on lockdown. I've been shielding since the 10th of March. I haven't been outside. The furthest I've been is to put something in the bin. And now I still have to order my shopping online, which is fine, no problem. But for things like medication and that, I ask a neighbour. They ask, whenever you're ready, let me know. So I ask a neighbour. If you get used to asking, and I think COVID has helped with this, because other people have had to ask for help of others. Other people have volunteered. And it means picking the phone up, sending a message, but if you can learn to ask, you will receive support. You know, and if somebody asks you, if you can give support, whether it's just talking, whether it's just listening, whether it's going to the shop, you know, be there for one another. You know, we're only here once, but learn to ask.
That's it. Excellent. How about you, Scott?
I was looking away there. Hopefully, you were going to throw over to Shari. I'm trying to use your skills again.
You would have known me by now, alphabetical order.
I love it. No, thank you. Well, for me, do less. Take the pressure off. Do less. Reevaluate your values. If you don't know how to do your values, reach out to anyone in the Campfire. A lot of people, Andy Bryce has got a great set. Paul Stretton, there goes a lot. Michael Laurier helped me with mine, and so jump out, have a look at it. Take some of your time because you're worth it.
Excellent. And Shari?
So I'm going to say a couple of things. First of all, this whole situation is unfamiliar to everybody. Give yourself permission for that to be okay. Allow that to be okay. Allow yourself to not necessarily know how you're going to get to where you want to get to, but know that you will get there, that you've gotten through everything in your life so far, and sometimes you had no clue how you were going to do some things, but you managed it. So you'll get through this just like everything else you have gone through before. And give yourself permission to start out small, especially when you're trying to achieve something that is unfamiliar, something that you've never done before. It's okay to start out small and work your way up. Work on one thing at a time. Don't try and do too much, and you'll always get to your destination in the end, even if it's not the perfect road you thought it was going to be. Even if there are a few speed bumps and a few detours along the way, you will get there as long as you believe in yourself and you give yourself permission for it to happen however it happens.
Excellent. Well, in my case, one of the things is I keep saying to everybody, I'm a part-time teacher, but a full-time learner. I don't teach people, I learn them, because while I'm imparting anything that I know, I'm learning from them all the time as well, as Scott was saying before. The Campfire Project has been, it's been just not quite 2 years now, but getting close to it. We've had 160 one-on-ones. This is our 78th panel discussion. So it's well over 200 hours of video watching. If you're bored on a weekend, you'll never get through it all on a weekend, but you've got quite a few weeks to put in a 40-hour week if you like. It'll take you quite a few weeks to get through it. But it's been, for me, it's been what I've learnt as well and what I've been able to share with other people, which has been ongoing. And it's going to continue doing that into the future. And I've got a announcement to make shortly. There is a website going up, which is wetogether.com.au, but it's something that hopefully is going to blow everyone's socks off. There'll be a lot of savings for people if they're part of it, and also at the same time there'll be money coming into charities as well. Again, it's something, by the way, I won't be making any money out of, the same as I don't do out of the Campfire Project. What I get out of it, though, is far more valuable. Being part of the Campfire Project is having all the people like you guys around, sharing your wisdom here and that, and learning from all of that. So I don't do very much. I just sit here and have a bit of a yarn, which I do anyway with people. So I'm not really doing anything that's extraordinary, but what's coming out of it is an extraordinary result, and that's because of everybody who's here. And that's what we do. The more we can do it together, the more we can actually create.
That's beautiful. The one thing that I've really enjoyed watching progress over the time that I've been with you is your beard. It's progressed beautifully. I really want to thank you for that progression, because it's an important thing to me.
Yeah, well, on the panel discussion yesterday, Steve Angel was on there, and we gave him a bit of a hard time because he's got the beard and he's bald up top. Somehow we got on the Dickie knee, so he was an upside down, an Aussie Dickie knee, reverse Dickie knee.
Oh, geez.
So anybody overseas doesn't know what Dickie knee was.
No,
It was a face with hair on a stick. Head on a stick. It's on one of our shows, comedy shows over here. Went on for years.
Oh.
So, yeah. What you don't want is a Dickie knee.
You don't want a Dickie knee.
Okay. Well, guys, thanks very much, Paul, Scott, and Shari for being here. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation. And, I'm keeping the bloopers at the front of this as well, Scott. Get some fun out of that later on. But everybody who's been listening, I hope again you got some value out of it. And again, you gel with the people who, or you connect with them, inside, connect with them on social media as well. The people you've heard here today, because as they've all said, they're here to help, and they're also like to give. They also like to receive as well. So share your thoughts with them as well. Give them your love as well. Okay. So thanks again, guys, for being here, and to everybody else, we'll see you on the next panel discussion. Bye for now.